What's going on, everybody? It is your boy Chris, man. We are here at the Work Hard, Play Harder podcast. It is Tuesday, October 15th, 2024. My name is Chris Drummond. I am a freelance sports reporter based out of Minnesota here, where I write for high school, college, and pros. I'm also a salesman and proprietor of this podcast, Work Hard, Play Harder, where I bring individuals on to talk about their why and why they do what they do and who they are outside of the occupation. I got a special guest that's coming on with me today. Her name is Meghan. She is a journalist for USA Today. She has been a writer for several years. She is someone who has writes for sports journalism. So we're going to talk to her about her why into journalism. We're going to get to know her a little bit. We're going to have an interactive game called This or That. We're going to talk to her about some of her favorite stories and just break bread with her from one journalist to another. So without any further ado, I introduce you the wonderful, the talented, the beautiful Meghan Hall. Hello there. How we doing?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing good. It is a pleasure to see your face, Meghan. Listen. It's about damn time that we got it linked up, right?
Yeah, yeah.
For sure, for sure. No, I just want to say thank you, starting off of allocating your time to me on my Work Hard, Play Harder podcast. I want to ask you, how's your week starting off as well?
It's not too bad. It's not too bad. We're doing, obviously prep for WNBA finals, that sort of stuff. So that's kind of where my brain is and plotting for the next possible, 4 days plus potentially if it goes all the way to game 5. So yeah, it's not bad.
Yes, I too will be covering game three as well. Game three is obviously out here in Minnesota, so I will too be covering that. I'm looking forward to that because it's my first WNBA game, finals game that I've ever covered in my life, so it will be amazing to do. I want to reiterate to you why I wanted to have you on here, and that's because obviously I'm a journalist, you're a journalist, we're both likewise, but obviously you are someone who's been doing this for several years and very talented, by the way. And I've read some of your stuff, no question about it. And I love talking to different journalists about their why, of why they do what they do. Everybody's story is different. And how rare is it that we get a chance to get in this position to where we get to talk about us? We're always going to search for the stories, right? We're always writing the stories, but we don't get a
Yeah.
chance to tell our story, as everybody has an original story of why they do what they do. So it was a no-brainer to me to have you on.
Oh, that's awesome. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you.
You are very welcome. And as I do, Meghan, with every guest that I have on here, my first question is, what is your why? Why do you do what you do? Did you have any inspirations? Did you have any role models growing up? Is this something that you always wanted to do, or did you fall into it? I mean, what is your why of being a sports journalist?
Yeah. This is definitely a fall into it sort of situation. I would say that maybe it was a little more strategic than I initially thought.
Okay.
But it definitely was the light bulb just like came on. Um, so I'll give you a little bit of context on me. So I have not been doing this that long. I have just been a year full time as a journalist.
Okay.
But I've been writing my entire career. I've got a marketing background, sales, business development, all of that. But I spent 2 years in content creation before I transferred over to journalism full time. In the middle of being a content creator, a buddy of mine was like, "Hey, there's a site that I'm writing for, and they're looking for someone who could talk about sports. It's a pop culture site, and they're trying to bridge the gap with sports." I immediately thought of you, and I'm like, dude, like I've written like marketing copy, and I can write for like websites and stuff, but like not sports. But he was like, no, no, no. He's like, I trust your knowledge. Like I think you could do it. So that
Sure.
was like my first like foray into it. I wrote for a site called Murphy's Multiverse.
Yep.
And so I wrote there for a little while, and then I got pulled into writing for the Colts because big Colts fan, and using that knowledge, probably maybe a couple months later, um, there was a smaller company called Stadium Rant that was trying to get up off the ground and looking for writers, that sort of thing. So I was doing
Sure.
all of that as like a like extra outside of my full-time job. So I do my job, come home, and do that as just like a hey, this is fun. I get somewhere to put all my like sports knowledge and stop like pestering my friends and my husband and
Absolutely.
everybody else, like with my stuff. So it was really cool to be able to do that. But I didn't think
Mhm.
anything of it past that until I really hit like I would say a wall essentially in my professional career. I started asking the company that I was working for, like, hey, where's this role going? You guys are putting more on my plate. Like, can you help me kind of figure out like what the future looks like? And they didn't really have a great answer. It was just kind of like, hey, be patient with us. We don't really know, that sort of thing. And so
Sure.
I, transparently at that point, I decided, okay, bet at minimum, I'm leaving. Like I'm going somewhere that is going to invest in me and not just kind of string me, along.
Sure.
All right. So, but I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I had to get the heck up out of there. And
Sure
so,
enough.
yeah, in the middle of that, they kind of knew that I was, I was frustrated, and so they actually hooked me up with a career coach to help me, like, just figure out what I wanted to do, where, what were my frustrations, that sort of thing. And in the middle of
Absolutely.
talking to this career coach, I'm telling her about work, and she's like, well, it sounds like you might, be unhappy. And I'm like, probably, yeah, I haven't quite figured it out yet, but that sounds about right.
Right.
So
Right.
she's like, well, if work's not keeping you happy, what is? And I was like, well, I've been writing and podcasting on the side. Like, that's what I do when I get home. So she was like,
Absolutely.
tell me about that. Like, let's talk about that. And so we did. And it felt like, walking in the dark for your whole life. And someone says, the light is over here. And,
Mhm.
it's the light for you. So it opened my mind to the possibility that I could take, my skills of essentially writing about supply chain solutions all day, which is not particularly exciting if you aren't in that industry.
You ain't lying about that.
And and transfer that over into sports stories. So I felt like if I could take complex stuff like that, like engineering, make it real simple for our customers to understand, I could do that for sports, right? Like I could take all the like talking head stuff, all the stuff that we hear all day long, and just
Mhm.
make it simple for people. Like I want someone to talk to me like how I talk to my friends and that sort of thing. That's kind of what
Absolutely.
what I wanted. Um
Right.
and so that was just the beginning of this kind of like journey to get into sports. So after that, it was like, okay, we're going to make some, strategic moves to get here. I went to several conferences. I went back to school after I swore I wasn't going back after my master's. Um, and, just kept plugging away at this sports stream. And that's when USA Today called not too long after, a couple months later. So, from like pillar to post, I would probably say from the moment I decided I was leaving to the
Yeah.
moment I arrived at USA Today was probably about, I'll probably say about 10 months total.
Okay.
So, and really it gets even shorter than that, because I don't think I decided till April of last year that, like, okay, sports is what it is. So from April to September. So that's a really short, like, turnaround. And not everybody has that journey. Like, not a lot of people can just flip careers like that. So
No.
that's why I say that, like, my moves were somewhat falling into, but also strategic. Like, I have a marketing background, I have a storytelling background. So even though like my career was a little bit of a jungle gym, all that was setting me up to, become a journalist at USA Today.
I love it. I do because it's one of the most uniquest stories that I've heard on this on this platform. Sorry, of Work Hard, Play Harder podcast. But it also goes to show you when you have the right mindset, when you have a decisive mindset, when you have that grind type of mindset, that anything is possible. Right? Anything is possible with hard work, determination, and opportunity. So
Yeah.
there's no question about that, and I love that. I also love the fact that you're one of many I would say one of my few guests that I've had on here that graduated in the state of Georgia undergrad at the University of West Georgia, which
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of guests on here to do that because I graduated college in Georgia and I know about West Georgia and Carrollton, Georgia. I know about that. I know about that life. I definitely do. It's quite unique of an experience. If you ever been to Carrollton, Georgia, there's no question
Yeah.
about it. That's
Yeah.
the only
Very
thing
much
that
so.
is West Georgia. That's it. There ain't much else. I graduated from Kennesaw State University, so
Oh
I
yeah.
wanted,
Oh
yeah,
my goodness. Yeah. You were down the street from where I grew up. So
there you go.
yeah,
So
I know all about Kennesaw State. Yeah.
absolutely. So my question to you is: were there any other schools that could have persuaded you from going to University of West Georgia?
Yeah, I wanted to go to Agnes Scott. Like that was my number one, like that's where I'm going. Berry College was on the list too. I'm trying to think who else. Probably, I think UGA was on my list, and so was Georgia Tech. But like, even though my grades weren't terrible, they just weren't good enough to get into there.
Yeah,
I think I
yeah, mine
graduated
either.
high school with like a 3.6, and it just wasn't good enough, to get into their 3.6 plus the SAT scores, all of that.
Right.
So when I started applying for schools, like, yeah, Agnes Scott was like, yes, this is where we're going. And then my family saw the tuition and was like, girl, absolutely not. We cannot afford that. Like, we make money, but not, yeah, we're not putting ourselves into like, thousands and thousands of dollars in debt
Right,
sending
right,
school. So West Georgia was, it was down the road, quote unquote, it was an hour and change from where I lived. And it was essentially way cheaper. So that's kind of, how I ended up at West Georgia. But yeah, there is like when I went to West Georgia, it was what is a West Georgia?
yeah,
Um, it was I'm sorry, you're going where? Who?
right, right.
It would have been much more prevalent in people's minds if I had said I was going to Kennesaw State, because that was literally, not too far from where I grew up. So that people would
Mhm.
have been like, oh, okay, yeah. But like West Georgia was not as big as it is like now. So, it's night and day. From when I say West Georgia now, people go, oh, okay, yeah, I know that. That was not the case when I when I went there.
Listen, you ain't lying. Like I said, I've only been to West Georgia twice, but the one time I went there was for a party. I ain't even gonna lie to you. It was some kind of party going on, and it was like, okay, this is a good time, but there was nothing else there. I mean, there was
Yeah,
nothing else there, Megan. I was like,
yeah,
where we gonna go get something to eat? Where we gonna go do
yeah.
this? Where we gonna go do? There was nothing. I was like, yo, this ain't it. I can't be coming back over here because y'all ain't got. I mean, just nothing else was there. Now, you said you grew up down the street. Did you grow up in Marietta?
So I actually grew up in Kennesaw.
In Kennesaw,
So
Georgia.
yeah, so I grew
Okay.
up there for part of my life. I'll say that I'm originally from Texas, so I spent a good portion of my childhood in Dallas, Texas area, Houston, Texas.
Okay.
But we moved here when I was like a kid, so I don't know, elementary, middle school.
Right.
And we were supposed to only be here a couple years, quote unquote, because of my
Right.
dad's job, and we just
Right.
ended up staying. So by the time that I went to college, like we were still here, and I didn't want to go to Kennesaw State because it was literally like, like around the corner.
Right.
And so I was like, that's too close. But like my mom didn't really want me to go that far either. So she was like, I need you to be, close, blah, 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 blah. So when West Georgia's acceptance letter came in, she's like, this is perfect. And I'm like, oh, okay, all right.
Got you. Say less. Now, hold on. Are you still based in Atlanta, Georgia?
I am, yeah, still based
Okay,
here.
okay.
Yeah.
Now, listen. Okay, so when I come back home to see family, because my mother, my aunt, and my uncle are still there. Obviously, I know you're very familiar with the city of Lawrenceville,
Yeah,
there in
yeah.
Georgia. So yes, my family is still there. Listen, I gotta hit you up next time I'm down there.
Yeah,
Next time
yeah,
I'm
for
down there,
sure.
I'll definitely say what's up. I have to, no doubt.
Yeah. Yep.
I want to ask you some favorite questions. Okay.
Sure.
So based upon these favorite questions, you just give me the 411 off the rip and let me know what some of your favorite things are. Okay, so here we go.
Okay. All right.
Favorite meal you like to cook?
Favorite meal I like to cook. Um, I can't have it the way that I would like to now because I've developed food allergy, so I've got to figure out a way around it. But I love like pancakes, waffles, those sorts of things. So I have
Okay.
a gluten intolerance as I've gotten older. These weird things happen when when you get past your 30s, like things just start popping up.
You
Um,
ain't lying. I
but
know it.
yeah, those sorts of things. I'm a big breakfast brunch girl. So like if somebody says brunch or we're going to breakfast, yes, count me in. I'm coming. We are doing it.
I feel you on that. You know, it crushed my heart before I left Atlanta because I'm in my 30s too. It crushed my heart when I left Atlanta and the Pancake House went
Oh
away.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Pancake House
Yeah,
was
yeah.
there in Kennesaw. Oh, and actually, no, not the Pancake House. I'm sorry. It's the Huddle House.
Yeah,
Huddle
I know what
House.
you're talking about. I knew what you're
Right.
talking
You know
about.
what I'm
Yeah.
talking about? The Huddle House.
Yeah.
And I love the Huddle House. That was so good. And it went away because all these
Yeah.
doggone Waffle Houses that's around here all the time. On every block. I tell people it's real. They think I'm playing. Every
Yeah.
block got a Waffle House in
Yeah.
Atlanta. I'm trying to tell you. But I like that. I'm like that with milk though. I can't really drink milk how I want to drink milk anymore. So I gotta, in portions. So I
Yeah.
gotta do it
Yeah,
in
of
portions.
course. Of course.
Um, favorite concert you've ever attended?
Ooh, oh, that's oh man. I've been to some good ones too.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to say, well, this is so hard because I have a favorite artist who I've seen multiple times, but
Okay.
she's probably not in my favorite concerts, which is crazy. I'm gonna say Bruno Mars.
Okay.
He came here, this was years ago now, but Moonshine Jungle Tour, he was fantastic. I had floor seats for that and it was glorious.
Oh wow. Okay. Shout out to the listen, man. I don't know if you bought them. I don't know if the husband bought them. I
Oh
don't know
no,
who bought
I
them.
bought him myself. This is actually way before like I even met him. So
Oh, okay. Okay.
I have no problem like taking myself out for things. Like I legitimately went by myself.
That's okay.
Like, and
That's
I
all
was
right.
like, nope, I'm going to see Bruno, like, that sort of thing. Or I mean, obviously I'll reach out to friends or whatever. It's like I just did a concert a couple weeks ago with one of my good friends.
Yeah.
But yeah, if nobody can go, I have no problem taking my daggone self. Like
You
none
know
whatsoever.
what? I felt the same way when I was there in Atlanta. I had went back and visited my mom earlier this year, and I went to a Hawks game by
Okay.
myself. I
Yeah.
will go. I will go. Nobody can go that particular time. I'll go to a Hawks game. I'll go to a Dream game by myself. I will
Yeah.
because I just love the sport so much. So yes, I
Yeah.
totally feel you on that. No, no doubt. Okay. Favorite place you've ever traveled to?
Ooh, I'm gonna say Punta Cana, Dominican Republic. So I went there last year. It was like a total vibe. Went with a bunch of friends. We were celebrating. One of my good friends had gotten married the year before, and they were celebrating their 1 year anniversary, and they invited a whole bunch of people to DR for a vow renewal, and like the whole trip was just amazing. Everybody was super chill. Everybody had fun. We did ATVs. We did horseback riding. We did, swimming in the ocean. Tons of food. So much food. If you ever been to a 5-star resort, woo, there's a lot of food. A lot of food.
Got you.
So, but yeah,
So
it was great. It was a great place.
okay. I'm putting that on the bucket list for sure. Now, I have Cabo San Lucas as my
Okay.
favorite place right now that I've went to. However, I am going on a cruise in a few days. Uh
Oh, okay.
so yeah, yeah, MSC Cruises. I don't know if you ever heard of that, but the four places that I'm going to is Cozumel, Mexico, Jamaica, Cayman Islands, and the Bahamas. So, and my
Okay.
favorite place just might change. That's why I brought
Okay.
that up. So we'll
Like
see. We'll see.
Cozumel is nice. I've been to Cozumel on a cruise. Very, very
Okay.
nice.
Okay.
And great food too. So if you get a chance to stop and like, get off and go get you some authentic Mexican food, it tastes way
Okay.
better, obviously, coming from Mexico. So
Hello. I appreciate that, Megan. I really do. And
yeah.
I'm definitely going to do that because I'm a huge carne asada person. Huge carne
Okay.
asada. Love
Yeah.
that. Two more of the favorites. Favorite sport you like to watch on TV. Favorite sport you like to attend in person. Can be the same sport.
So football for favorite sport that I like to watch on TV. I actually grew up watching football, like that's my first love. So it's very interesting when I tell people like basketball is my like expertise when like I know I have way too much football knowledge for the average person, let alone a woman.
Mm,
So
mm.
so yeah, I would say like for sure football. In person, um, to be honest with you, I might say like basketball now because I've seen a number of basketball games in person covering and that sort of thing. And I just like I'm a fan of the game. So I just and those sorts of things excite me. I think with football, it's very interesting because it's great to watch on TV, but when you're there in person, you don't hear the broadcast. And I'm
Right.
not saying it can't be exciting because it is, but you don't
Right.
hear the broadcast or things like that. But with basketball, there's concerts going on. You're shrunk into the game, so to speak. It's a
Mhm.
much cozier vibe, I feel like. And so especially, and I'm probably thinking about Atlanta Dream games as well. Like I love watching the games and whatnot. So yeah, I'm probably gonna say basketball.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. I do love football with a passion, no question. But to me, also, the stadiums are huge. They're big. Sometimes you don't get the right seat. If
Yeah.
you're up too high, they can look very miniature, very
Mm-hmm.
small.
Mm-hmm.
And football just has a lot more people, like 5 times the amount that a basketball arena has, and it's
Yeah.
hard to get out, hard to use the bathroom. I'd rather just TiVo it, stop, go to the bathroom, come back, watch the game. Now, basketball in person. I'm with you on that. A lot less people, a little bit more kind of more close knit of the group, and also the announcers. Like you said, the announcers are sometimes on top of you as well. You can hear them as well. The roar of the crowd, with it being so closed in, when it gets
Mhm.
super loud. Oh man, it's no better feeling, at least in my mind, of watching a
Yeah.
basketball game for sure. It's my favorite sport. I'm a little biased, but so be it. Last of the favorites. Now we got a
Okay.
lot to talk about on this one because I know Atlanta pretty well. I was in Atlanta for a lot of years before I came out to Minnesota.
Okay.
Favorite restaurant you like to eat at? God and God rest the soul of Gladys Knight's restaurant, because Gladys
Oh,
Knight's restaurant downtown was something
yeah.
different. I don't know if you
Yeah.
ever went there, but I
Oh
did.
yeah. Yeah. I've been several times.
Okay,
I'm
you
actually gonna
already know.
give you. I'll give you again. When I say I love brunch, I love brunch. So, Flying Biscuit is my favorite like restaurant.
Ooh,
So, I've been there an ungodly amount of times.
yes,
But yeah,
yes.
it's my favorite. I in general, I'm down for brunch restaurants. So like I've been trying to get out of trying like just my favorites and go try like new ones and that sort of thing.
You been to
Um
Jay Christopher's?
oh yeah, yeah, plenty of
Okay,
times. Way
okay,
too many
okay,
times. Way too many
okay.
times.
Got
Yeah.
you, got you.
Yeah. But
Okay.
yeah, that's usually my scene. Now, I'll try other stuff like I'll tell you I just went to a concert a couple weeks ago and right before that we tried what did we try? What's it called? Fresh Kitchen. It's in like Buckhead.
Ooh,
And it's like a
okay.
almost like a I would say farm I think it's farm to table, but it's all like fresh foods and that sort of thing. Which I appreciate because allergies and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so that like the menu was great. So it was really cool to try that. I rarely go to Buckhead because it's always just jumping over there.
You ain't lying.
But it wasn't that far from where the concert venue was. So we were like, you know what, we'll go eat and then we'll go to the concert. So
Yeah, unfortunately, Lenox Mall ain't what it used to be back in the day. You know what I'm saying? Lenox Mall
yeah,
be
yeah,
popping off at times. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? So they used to have a spot right off the train station called Houston's.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember, okay, so you remember that restaurant, right? So
Yeah.
that was one of my favorite spots, as well as Maggiano's. If you know what
Okay.
Maggiano's, yeah,
Yeah.
Maggiano's is one of my favorite spots too. But I like the one, not the Cumberland one was okay, but the one by Dunwoody
Yeah. Yeah.
was the
Yeah.
one better.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Perimeter Mall, that area. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you already know. So
Yeah.
definitely, I like that though. I'm gonna have to check that out. Fresh Kitchen, because I ain't
Mm-hmm.
never heard of that. So I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
definitely check that out. Let's get into your day to day. As you
Okay.
know, reporters do not have the same day ever. Our days are always different. We're always doing something different. We don't work conventional hours of an 8 to 5, 9 to 6. People get to be like, oh, I clock in at 9. Oh, I clock out at 6. I'm done for the day. That's
Yeah.
not really the life of a reporter. Sometimes
Mm-mm.
you have breaking news. Sometimes you have long days. Sometimes you cover games. Games are nights and weekends predominantly, so you makes your days a little bit longer. Talk
Mm-hmm.
to me about your process of getting ready for day to day during the season, and maybe even in the off season, if there is an off season for you, because you may switch sports, right? WNBA is about to end, so you
Yeah.
might switch sports to something else. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, and you're right. When I say off season, like we're about to get into college basketball. So what off season for me?
Mm,
On a typical day, I will usually I spend an ungodly amount of time connected to my phone, connected to my laptop, that sort of thing.
yep.
Mostly because I'm trying to keep a pulse on, what's going on. So I've had to figure out that balance of like, okay, like, hey, we certain hours or we're not connected to the internet. But usually in the morning I'm looking on Google Trends. I'm kind of seeing like what's moving, what are people searching for, that sort of thing.
Mm,
I'll take that, and if there's something like popping off at the top of the morning, okay, great. I'll go see what's trending, and then like what are people searching or looking for or whatever else. Um, if there is something that I had an idea for, then I'll usually go through my ideas list, and I'm like, okay, yep. I just kind of plug through those each week. Like every week, I kind of have an idea of something that I probably want to write.
mm,
It changes with the news, of course, but there's usually something that like, okay, I want to write. Like, for example, obviously we had WNBA finals. The Lynx pull back this improbable, win, so to speak, in the first game. And I
Yeah,
think a lot of that doesn't happen without Courtney Williams, like, having a fantastic fourth quarter and hitting this, bonkers like 3-point shot, right?
without question.
Yeah. So I wrote about how that changed, basically the fabric of the series. Like that situation, the Liberty weren't even supposed to be in that situation. They were up by so much that like that, allowing Minnesota to creep back in
Hmm.
changed all of that. So I got up, obviously I grabbed the big stuff, photos and this shot and oh my goodness, it went to overtime and Stewie missed a free throw and like, we're
Yeah.
writing that. But then when all that calmed down, I was like, you know what? I want to write something on Courtney Williams. I feel like one, she deserved like more people deserve to know about her. Girl's
Right.
a hooper, but also like this sort of victory doesn't happen without her efforts. I mean, she had 11 clutch points down the stretch of the fourth quarter. That's a
She
lot,
did. She
right?
was
That's a lot.
phenomenal.
Yeah, a lot of points. So I wanted to write about that. So that's kind of the stuff that I will do if there's something I see, something I think, I try to make sure that I add those. Throughout the day, the way that For the Win works is we're usually grabbing what people are searching, what's popping up or whatever else. Like today was breaking news, Devontae Adams gets traded to the Jets, right? So
Yep.
if you check For the Win's website right now, there's probably easily 10 plus pieces that we wrote on just
Hmm.
that from all different sorts of angles. It'll be the funny angle, like people were making Taco Bell jokes or, Jordy Nelson jokes or whatever else. Or, we're talking about how like, Aaron Rodgers has run out of excuses for his Jets career not being successful, right? Like that's the
Certainly
type
has.
of right. Those are the type of angles that we're doing. So it could be a breaking news day. It could just be like a hey, we are keeping the pulse on what fans are talking about, what trends are happening. We're also looking at the calendar of what's coming up next. We're always kind of planning ahead. Maybe we're doing evergreen content. Like it really just, depends. But I think for me, I think I don't really have an off season per se because college basketball and WNBA kind of end to end run into each other. So
Without question. Yep.
by the time WNBA ends, so I think October 20th is the like dead drop, like that's the last day for WNBA finals. Well,
Yep.
college basketball starts November 4th. So
Yep.
there's, maybe 2 weeks in between there. It's not a whole lot of time. So
Sure.
we have to start prep. And that's what I'm doing now is starting to prep stories that we're gonna, do as all this kind of lead up content into college basketball. But following that throughout the season, I mean, college basketball is November into early April. And by the
Yep.
time it ends, the draft rolls around for WNBA. So again, 2 week span, it ends early April. The draft is April 14th next year. So it's like, I'm constantly kind of going, but I kind of like it in a sense of I'm able to watch, this incoming rookie class. I've written so much about them throughout the season, and then now all of a sudden they're going to the pros. So now I get to follow them throughout the pros, and we're connecting the dots and that sort of thing. So that's always really cool
Absolutely.
for me. It also helps too that like women's college basketball is growing, so is the WNBA, and now they're kind of meeting each other at this kind of colliding of the titans, if you will. So
Mhm.
it's really really cool to be in that space and being able to cover all the stories. So I think on a typical day, like I mean, yes, I'll probably work an 8 to 4. I'll put that in soft quotes. An 8 to 4. But like realistically, like, at like 7 o'clock, 7:30, I'm already like, prepping for my day. My day ends
Sure.
at 4. And yes, I'm on the internet. You'll probably see me tweeting or whatever else, but you know what else I'm also doing? I'm bookmarking stuff tomorrow and the next
Hmm.
day, and I'm reading stories from other journalists, and oh, that's a really good, that's a really good story, or that's a good angle. I hadn't thought about that. Blah 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 blah.
Right.
Like that's the type of
Right.
stuff. So my brain is kind of, it's kind of going. Like I said, I've had to work on like a balance. So there are times where I'm like, okay, cut this off, that sort of thing. Make sure I'm engaged with my family. Make sure that I don't drain myself, every day, that sort of thing.
Sure.
Because it's a lot to work and be married and have kids and still find myself in there because I do have a social life outside of my job.
Right.
So yeah, it's trying to find that balance. But that's kind of a typical day. It's if you ask any other journalists, like I think someone asked me, yeah, I think it was earlier this year. I was talking to Slam magazine and they were like, what's your screen time on your phone? And I was like, I think I looked and it was something crazy like 13 or 14 hours or whatever else. Like that's my average like screen time. but that wasn't even the highest. Like some journalists have 16 or 18 hours or days, or depending on what they do. So I'm like, yeah, like people think just because like, okay, our shifts or our time spent writing is shorter, that like we aren't plugged in all the time. We're
Right.
doing podcasts, we're doing videos, we are doing interviews, we're covering games. Like, yeah, our days are often very long.
Gathering information always. I know when I was with the publication before I decided to go freelance, it was 15, 16 for me. And I was
Yeah.
covering high school and college. But my thing was I was gonna be the best damn high school person covering. Like I'm gonna cover this team, this team, this team, wherever this team goes. If you're a very good team, I want to be at your practice. You're a very good team going to state all the time, I want to be at the state. I want to be at the section. I want to get the stories that nobody else would be able to get
Mm.
on the high school and the collegiate level. So I totally understand that. People have to understand, just because we work nights and weekends, I worked 3 to 12 when I was with the publication, or 2 to 11, and we
Ooh.
had a hard deadline at 11 o'clock where we had to get the stuff in. And so I'm writing games and blurbs and stuff in 15 minutes and 30 minutes and getting quotes and making calls and stuff like that. But that's the rush, and I love it. And people's like, man, I love it. I love doing it. And people think that you're crazy as hell that you're doing that. Like what you just said, all of that, I totally understand. I'm smiling on the inside. So people
Yeah.
think that's a lot to be dealing with, but you love it. You
Mhm.
love doing it because there's just no better feeling into getting that story, having that rush, going from one sport to the next. You are coming up with a new storyline every single day. And now covering college basketball, I don't know if you cover a team or you cover it nationally or not, but
National. Yeah.
so you do it nationally. So
Hmm.
now you already know. I mean, I'm going through my mind just in women's college basketball. How is Paige Bruckers and Aziz going to be in UConn? How is
Hmm.
Juju going to be in her sophomore year? Is she going to be
Yeah.
good? Can South Carolina get over the distraction of what happened in the offseason with their player? How can it
Hmm.
be like that? That's just three storylines coming up off the top of the rip, let alone other storylines
Yeah.
within the college basketball, because there's some players that you definitely want to pay attention to in
For
college
sure.
basketball, and
For sure.
that's just women's college basketball, which is growing so much. And I love that. I love the fact that you're doing that because it's amazing work that you do. But it's also shining a light on a sport that many people really, for lack of a better term, hit it on and really
Hmm.
didn't pay much attention to in the
Hmm.
past, right?
Hmm.
People are now having like worldwide debates on women basketball and why are you paying attention now and why is it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you pop on your TV, you got First Take talking about it. I was like, oh well, we didn't pay attention because of so and so. Well,
Yeah.
the ratings been going up. They've been going up slow, but they went up tremendously this year, not just because of Caitlin Clark. You just mentioned the rookie class. You had Cameron Brink. You had the girls from Chicago and Cardosa and Angel Reese. You had the girl in Minnesota, Alyssa. I
Alyssa
think her
Feely.
name
Yeah.
Peely, right? And
Hmm.
she played at University of Utah, if I'm not mistaken. I
Hmm.
might be wrong with that, but I think she played in Utah.
Yep.
She was a terrific rookie, and look at her. Her team's in the NBA Finals, the WNBA Finals. He has such a tremendous rookie class this year that it makes the stories worth telling. It makes it worthwhile to cover it, and I'm so excited because I've always loved watching basketball and talking women's basketball. Diana Taurasi is my goat when it comes to WNBA, no question
Okay.
about it. Sue Bird is probably my point guard goat, or she's a point guard, no question.
Okay. All right.
The point guard, she's mine. But those are my players, and it's a great segue because I want to get your thoughts
Yeah.
on maybe some of your favorite basketball players or WNBA players or collegiate players of maybe a top five of what you
Oh.
think. It doesn't have to be now; it could be
Woo.
all time. But if you
Yeah.
want to do now, you certainly can.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say that Candace Parker was my goat. So
Hmm.
Candace Parker and Maya Moore are like,
I can't leave them off the top five. I'll tell you that.
yeah, it's definitely gonna be Candace Parker and Maya Moore up there for me.
Mhm.
She is not done playing yet, but I've got the shirt on. It's Asia Wilson, with
Wow.
the MVP shirt
Wow.
on. Shout out to Playa Society, so I have that shirt. It was just too nice not to buy. So I don't buy a whole lot of.
It looks good on you. It looks good.
Thank you. I
You
don't buy a
welcome.
whole lot of player like shirts. I buy a lot of like general like WNBA shirts or whatever else. But this one was so nice, and Asia had such a like just ridiculous season. I was like, yeah, we're buying it. So I'd
Yeah.
have to put Asia up there in terms of like top players for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I, oh my gosh, I think just in general, I don't even know if I could limit it to five, but you gotta, the Lisa Leslie, the Cheryl Swoops of the world, you have
Sure.
to recognize, them. I think it would be really hard for me to like, I asked this question at the draft, like who would you put on your WNBA Mount Rushmore? And
Sure.
that four people is so tough for like, I mean, watching the players try to like answer this, and they were, twisting themselves into a pretzel trying to just pick four people. It's tough. It's so tough. Um, but I think that like in general, like we're at such a good spot with WNBA and women's basketball. Like there really are no wrong answers for it when people say, "Oh, this person's my goat," or "This person's
Sure.
my favorite," or whatever else. I think as a journalist, I don't really necessarily have a favorite per se. I think Candace Parker, to me, just her tenacity, her will to keep going.
Her
Um,
impact on the game is huge.
yeah,
No
impact
question
on the
about
game is probably why she gets that high up for me. Maya Moore, same thing. Like, and it's always crushing because it's like, oh, there was so much left that
it.
we,
Yeah.
probably didn't get, out of Maya. But I think that folks like that are the folks that like you got to mention when you start talking about like the basketball greats or whatnot. I think current players that I like, or I think that have like great games.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely like, if you're not talking about the aces, like it's kind of, it's kind of hard not to. But like, in my opinion, and again, people are, there's this debate all the time about like who's the best passer in the league and those sorts of things. Like, it's Chelsea Gray still the point god. No, I think, and I'll be clear and say I think Caitlin Clark is like right there in terms of like top passers in the league. But I give
Sure.
I give the edge to Chelsea. Like there's just some things that like she can do that Caitlin can't quite, do yet. Do I think Caitlin will
Right.
get there? Yeah, she probably will. And we'll probably be having this, debate, later on. But like, yeah, best passer in the league, most cerebral, I think. Yeah,
Oh, Chelsea Gray.
it's Chelsea Gray.
Yeah.
And so I think you when you mention like top players in the league, like the aces come to mind. Obviously Fee, Stewie. Like I think Nafisa Collier is
Oh,
bonkers.
she's
Like
amazing.
I don't have a whole lot of words that like to describe just what we are witnessing. But I think a lot of it, what's wild is that like Fee's numbers this season aren't that far off from her season numbers from 2023. They really aren't. But she's so much better on the defensive end that it
Right.
is just, I mean, she's a nightmare on either side. Like she's going to cook you up defensively. She's swiping balls. She is, cutting off lanes, all sorts of things. She's blocking shots. And then once you've recovered from her, like, basically unraveling you, she's dropping buckets on you on the other end. And it's just,
She's giving
it's,
Stewie all she can handle in
yeah,
these
like
first two games.
that,
No question.
that, I wrote about that a couple days ago. I was like, this battle, like Stewie, I wrote about it jokingly that Stewie was like, calling Fee for a tech or whatever else. But I basically wrote like this battle is really good. It's a really good primer for Unrivaled that is, going to start in January. If you want to see like some of the WNBA's best, like you're getting it in the finals right now. But
Sure.
players like that are kind of, the folks that I think about. Obviously this is probably because I cover Atlanta on a freelance basis, but like I feel like Atlanta's got a superstar, generational superstar in Ryan Howard. Alicia
Okay.
Gray's career has just revived, in Atlanta, and her and Ryan are 1-2 punch, which they're fantastic.
Sure.
I look forward to what these younger players can bring. So your Caitlins, your Angels, your Cameron Brink when she's healthy and coming
Yep.
back. Rakia Jackson, oh my goodness, what a bucket! Um,
Mm.
you have
Mm.
those kind of young rookie players. Camila Cardoso is going to be fantastic when she comes back as well.
Yep.
I'm excited for those folks because I feel like these aren't just going to be where it's like, oh well, the rookie class came in and that's it, and blah 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 blah. Like,
Sure.
no, this rookie class is really good. They're really good. And I
Absolutely.
think that first round into probably like mid second round, like there's some ballers in there. And I'm really excited to see like, what they do and where their career goes.
I love and just mention a few more before I get to the next question. I love the fact that the WNBA commissioner is changing the format. Change the format of the playoffs. I do like that a lot because number one, I think people are going to want to see more games. I mean, the 5 and the 7 format for the playoffs or for the finals, I think that they want to see more games. And I love the format change. The another couple of players that I would definitely mention is Arike Ogumlake from the Dallas Wings. And also Alyssa Thomas, the triple double walking Alyssa Thomas from the Connecticut Sun, as well as Dewana Bonner, who's been one of my favorite players ever since she played in Phoenix with, my GOAT, Diana Taurasi. So I definitely love those players, every player that you mentioned as well. The WNBA is in great hands, and I'm looking forward to covering my first WNBA Finals game and covering a lot more because I got on late to it this year, but I'm going to be covering a lot more WNBA Minnesota Lynx games next year for sure. No question about that. Great segue to now talking about advice. Now, Megan, what is some advice that you would give a college graduate, recent college graduate, or maybe somebody seasoned like us, because you've been a writer for a minute, but you've been in this for, like you said, about a year, some change. What would you tell someone that wants to be in your shoes and cover sports? What kind of advice would you give?
Always bet on you. Always bet on you.
Mm,
And what I mean by that is when I decided I wanted to go into sports, there was nothing that was going to stop me. That didn't matter what obstacle was in front of me. I was intentional. I was strategic about what I wanted to do. I
yeah,
was grateful for everything that happened, every denial, every hey, acceptance, whatever happened, I was okay with that because I knew I was going to make it anyways. And that was me betting on myself. I was terrified to make that jump, but I knew what was on the other side. And I knew I was going to basically be upset with myself if I didn't at least try. Um,
right.
so it's like flying and hoping that your wings pop out midair. You know what I mean? Like that takes a lot of guts to do.
It
Um,
does.
but always bet on yourself. Like you control your story. You write the pages, rip them out, tear them up, whatever you got to do to get to where your happiness is. And I tell people all the time, like people think that, oh, it's got to be a straight line to happiness. No, happiness is zigzag. You're going to have to jungle gym it. You know what I mean? Like you got to pivot and you can't be afraid to do that. So if you're
Mm,
wanting to get where I am, like, yeah, it might take you, going through a side door or going through the window to get to where you are. People think that you got to bust through the front door, and that's not always the case. Like sometimes you got to get a little creative. Like I wouldn't have, if you had told me like, hey Meg, when you grow up you're going to be a journalist, full-time sports journalist, like I wouldn't have believed you. Because
right.
I did all the safe things. I went to school. I got a business degrees, two business
Yep.
degrees. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Oh, get a flexible degree, blah 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 blah. Being a writer, being a journalist, being in media was always a fleeting sort of thought. It was like, oh, that's really cool, like that sort of thing, and that was it. Not realizing like once I got here, hey, you kind of
You
know what
belong.
yeah, you know what you're talking about. You belong here. And I think that's the thing. Like you got to know from the get-go that you belong. Like that imposter syndrome is so real. It's
Right.
so real, especially for, and I'm specifically talking to young journalists. Yeah, it's so real. It's so heavy on you because you're seeing all these seasoned journalists, all these seasoned media, seasoned content creators, and you're comparing yourself. Oh, I gotta get here. Oh, I gotta be you. Be you. Your steps are intentional. Your path is intentional. You're gonna get to where you need to be, right?
Mm.
So I always just tell people, bet on you, be confident in who you are, and the rest will work itself out.
And that's really good, Meg. It really is, and it's simple advice. It is simple, but it's a natural thing for all of us because we've all have done it. We've all compared ourselves to others. Like, you know what? I can do what she's doing or he's doing or
Mm-hmm.
whatnot. But at the same time, we have to sit back and be like, listen, our journey is our journey. Our steps are our steps. Our path is our path. We're gonna
Mm-hmm.
get there when it's time for us to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And I truly do believe that. And that's one of the things that I know I've learned personally being in this is that you can't look at a man's or woman's path because looking at somebody else and not paying attention to your own leads you to crash and burn.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
leads you to crash and burn. It's the same way when you're driving. When you're driving, you can't look at the other car when you're driving. It's going to lead to crash and burn. You got to focus on your own road or where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and people think that's one of the things why I do podcasts like this, is because there's an A side and a B side. The A side is we cover games, we go to games, we write great stories that have an impact. We want to be a voice for the voiceless, an advocate for the people, a pillar in our communities, all this, that, and the third. And we want to just tell uplifting stories that have an impact with our subscribers or our readers or whoever, wants to pay attention to us. But the
Mhm.
B side is that you have to understand that sacrifices come with every job that you do, not just journalism, but every job.
Mhm.
There's going to be times where in this particular industry, you're going to miss certain events. You're going to miss
Mhm.
celebrations. You're going to miss graduations. You're going to miss dinner dates. You're going to have to reschedule
Mhm.
things. People are going to have to be very understanding to your schedule. For me, being a bachelor, dating is hard. Uh, Nobody wants to go out on a Tuesday night at midnight when you get when you get off. It's difficult, but it's something I never would change because I love doing what I do. I love chasing my dream, and I understand that this is temporary. Those kind of feelings and kind of thoughts. If I want those things to happen, I'm the only one that's going to be able to provide a way to make that happen.
Mhm.
So your path is your path. Your journey is your journey, like you said. You never should look at another person's journey and be envious or think that you're not going to get there. Just
Mhm.
be you, be original. Like you said. So I 100% agree with that. And I always tell my young boys out here, can't believe I call them young boys, but they're like 17 years old now.
Yeah.
But my young boys out here I always tell them, pursue your goals with 100% and
Mhm.
understand that the way you practice, the way you come and play these games in high school, you need to pursue those same goals when you get into the real world. That same kind of focus and determination you have, pursue that in life, and you'll be
Mhm.
successful in whatever career you want to
Mhm.
do. So that's the advice that I gave. That's just to piggyback off of your great advice. And we're going to segue to now the interaction game of this or that. And
Okay.
basically, Meg, what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw two things at you, and you get to choose one or the other. Are you with me?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, here we go. We've been vibing all podcast episode, but this question might get us off track. Here we go.
Okay.
Which chicken place would you rather choose, Popeyes or KFC?
Oh, Popeyes,
Okay,
without even thinking.
Megan. We here, girl. We here. We here. That's what Martin said. We here. I
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that. I
yeah.
like it. Okay, here we go. When it comes to chicken wing flavors, which one are you choosing? Barbecue and lemon pepper.
Lemon pepper.
Do you like your wings wet or dry?
Oh, I like mine dry.
Okay. And do you like your wings bone in or boneless?
Oh, it really depends on the mood I'm in, but if I had to lean one, it's definitely going to be bone in.
Okay, because you know what they say about boneless wings, right?
Yeah, it's not really wings, it's like chicken nuggets, you know.
Yes, they do. They do say that. Okay, but I'm with you. Listen, I like the meat. I'm gonna eat both of them regardless, but I do
Yeah.
like to get a little messy. Let me have a couple wet wipes to the side, and then we good. We good to go. Okay, I'm with you on that. Here we go. Four questions now that I'm gonna ask is gonna be about concerts you rather attend. Okay,
Okay.
so this first one is R&B like. Which
Okay.
concert would you rather go to, Monica or Brandy?
I'm definitely going Brandy. I was a massive Brandy fan growing up, still am, and 100% going Brandy.
I'm with you on that. Now you know Monica's from the A now.
I
I'm with
know, I know. Yep,
Okay,
yep.
okay, okay. Here we go. Next one is gonna be rap.
Okay.
Which artist would you rather see in person? Would you rather see Kendrick Lamar or Drake?
Oh, I'm going K dot. Yeah, I'm going K dot.
That's what I'm talking about. Okay, here we go. Which concert would you rather go to? Would you rather go see J. Cole or Lil Wayne?
Oh, Cole. That's not even a question. It's Cole.
You like, why you ask that fool ass question?
Yeah, it's not even a question. Yeah, it's Cole.
Okay, okay, here we go. This next one is gonna be R&B. Which artist would you rather go see? Boys the Men or New Edition?
Oh, sheesh. I'm gonna go Boys to Men just because I grew up with Boys to Men, but I'm also a New Edition fan. So
Dang. That is
yeah,
probably the first one that we disagreed on because I'm gonna say New Edition.
you're gonna
Yeah,
say New Edition. Okay, okay.
yeah. If it isn't love, is one of my favorites.
It's
So
one of my favorites too. It's good. It's good.
okay, I'm with you on that. So, you know good music. That's all that
Yeah,
is. I'm
of
with you.
course, of course.
Okay, okay now. So which sport would you rather play? Badminton or bowling?
I'm gonna say bowling because badminton I feel like is super intense. It's way more intense than people give credit for. And my knees are terrible. So I just know I would fall flat on my face trying to get one of those little, the little
Birdies.
yeah, just trying to hit that thing over the net. No, I just know it would be such an ugly scene. Like give me bowling.
I understand. Hitting those birdies are very hard to do over the net. Are you a good bowler?
I'm a decent bowler. Every now and then I can get, a strike. Like I'm not gonna get too many gutter balls, maybe one or two, because it's gonna take me a second to warm up. But I'm decent. I won't even
Okay.
claim to be like fantastic, but like, will I not embarrass you if you put me on your team? Yeah, I could probably say that.
Do you need the bumpers? That's all I want.
Do I need the bumpers? No.
Okay, good. Okay.
No.
Okay. Grown damn people should not need no
Yeah,
bumpers to
I
bowl.
mean, if I need the if I get a gutter ball, it just is what it is. I'm gonna laugh at myself. I'm gonna probably poke fun at the fact that it's that it didn't even hit anything. But no, I don't
As
need
you
the bumpers.
should. And have a cold beverage while you do it. That's
Yeah,
what you
yeah,
should do. Yes,
yeah.
absolutely. Okay. Spades or dominoes?
Oh, spades, easily,
Are you good
easily.
at spades?
I'm very good at spades. Yeah, very good at spades.
That's what they all say until they
Um,
still.
no, I'm very good at spades. No, I
Okay. No.
that's not even that's not even a question. I don't
Okay. Hold
like
on. Are you ace high or joke deuce deuce?
Joker, Joker, Deuce, Deuce. Like what? Ace is high. What is that? We aren't in elementary. Like
I mean, listen, you be surprised. People out here, I tried to play some spades with them, and I said, "Y'all playing joke deuce deuce? I'm with it." They said, "No, we playing ace high."
Ace is
I said,
high is terrible because I feel like that's how they have spades like on your phone. Like that's the type of like
"Right,
basic
that's
sort
Yahoo
of like
spade."
yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. Like no, I want to put a card on my forehead and like make you mad. I want to slap it across the table. Like I want to do all those things. Like
All right, now, all right. I'm just trying to tell you, Meg, we might have to put that to the test one of these days before the end of the
I'm
day. You
I'm
might
with
put
it.
it.
I'm with it. I'm with it. I'm with it. I'm
Okay,
with it.
man. All right, let's do it. Okay, here we go. Three more for the this or that. Do you like desserts?
I love desserts. Yeah.
So I'm gonna throw four categories at you. You have to choose one of these that you'll never eat again. Okay, so
Okay.
here's the categories.
Okay.
Cake is the first one. That's any type of cake.
Okay.
Ice cream is second.
Okay.
Third is candy. So any type
Okay.
of candy. And fourth is cookies. Which
Oh,
one are you getting rid of that you'll never eat again?
cake can go. That's fine. Like
Oh,
that's no problem. Cake can
oh,
go. I've
oh,
never
hell.
been I've never been a big cake person like since I was a kid. I'm very basic on cake flavors.
Mhm.
And so vanilla, strawberry, maybe. If you get me to eat a chocolate cake, you're a good person. Because I just am not a massive like cake person.
Okay.
But I'll do like cupcakes. Like cupcakes are fine, but like if I had to get rid of cake or cupcake, it could go. I love ice cream. I love
Now,
cookies.
what's your favorite ice cream?
Oh, favorite? I don't even know if it's really a ice cream per se, but I love raspberry sorbet. That's those are my favorites. So yeah. And I like if you've ever been to a place where they like make the ice cream in front of you. So like the handmade sort of ice cream. Yes. Homemade, handmade. Yep. Give me that.
Okay. Okay. Let me ask you on this one. Are we rocking with Cold Stone or Baskin Robbins?
Oh, it's Cold Stone. Yeah, it's Cold Stone.
Got you. Yeah, yeah, I'm with you
Yeah.
on that. Last of the this or that. Do you like potato chips?
I'll eat them. Yes. I don't eat them a ton, but yes, I'll eat them.
So this is the same format, okay,
Okay.
as the last one of the desserts. I'm gonna throw four brands at you. You got to get rid of one of these brands you'll never eat again. Okay,
Okay.
so here we go. First one is Ruffles. The
Okay.
next one is Pringles.
Okay.
The next one is Doritos.
Okay.
The last one is Lay's. Which one are you getting rid of that you'll never eat again?
Doritos. Never been a huge fan of them. They could go. All the
Oh,
flavors, they can all go.
oh my Lord. Are you a salt and vinegar person?
I wouldn't say a salt and vinegar person, but I can eat those chips.
Okay. Do you know? I'm gonna tell you, Megan. Those are the second worst chips ever made. The second worst chips ever made. And people say, "What's the first worst?" Funyuns.
Oh, you don't like funny? I mean, I will say this. I haven't eaten them in years. Let me say that, but I grew up on them. So yeah, like I could see that. see how people would be like, nah.
Yeah, I grew up on them too. That's why no more. I can't do them no more.
All right, so
Uh,
do you do Fritos? Do you do those?
the chili cheese ones, the chili
Oh,
cheese.
chili cheese. Okay, all right, all right.
Yeah, but my favorite chip is Ruffles sour cream and cheddar with that buffalo chicken dip. Mm,
Oh, okay, okay.
mm, my lord, it's something good. I'll tell you that right now. Okay, I like that. You did good on this or that.
Yeah,
If you
I
wasn't
try.
a sport journalist, what career path would you have chosen to pursue and why?
So I would have been a personal trainer. So not a lot of people know, and I probably don't look like it now, but like in my heyday, before I had my kids and all that, I was doing bodybuilding. So I was prepping for shows and that sort of thing. So
Okay.
a lot of that was one, training with other people who train, two, educating people on, how to properly take care of their bodies, those sorts of things. I love helping people and I love educating people. So, obviously I get to do that in journalism. So that kind of fulfills that for me. But like the gym outside of like work is like my happy place. And whenever I'm there, like nothing matters. I could be happy, mad, sad, wherever, like I'm gonna feel, great in the gym. And I loved getting to push other people to do that. So if I'm training with someone, if I'm, if we're, I don't know, I'm just throwing something out there, but if we're doing, leg day or whatever, I'm asking you like, what's your favorites? Let's do that. How can we get better? Here's a variation of this. Here's, we want to try this or whatever else. So
Sure.
yeah, that's the side of me that I don't really like share a whole lot. Not that I'm ashamed of it, just nobody really asks. So, but yeah,
Mm,
I
I
did
love it.
that for several years. And yeah, if I wasn't doing that, yeah, probably would be a personal trainer full time.
Now I know you say you got your master's. I believe you got it at Mercer,
I
if I'm not
did.
mistaken.
I did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. So I wanted to ask you, have you ever thought about teaching? Because I think you would be great at it if you did.
Oh boy. No. No, not even. I appreciate the ability to talk to a class. Now, if somebody wanted me to come in and like talk to some students or whatever else, I'd be thrilled. I'd be honored to do that. That's not a problem at all. But
Sure,
like teaching, nah, it's a no for me, big dog. I can't even do it. Um, I think for me, like that takes a certain kind of patience to be able to do that.
hmm,
And I think for me, I would probably be a little too close to my students because I care a lot. I actually care quite a bit.
I
And I think
understand.
it would be really hard for me to just like separate, which I do. I do that really well now as a journalist. Like I'm able to just, separate feelings or whatever else because, you spent years and years being impartial. The students is a little bit different. You are like actively sewing into these people every single day. You get invested in them.
Absolutely,
And yeah, I just know it would like break my heart if my students weren't doing well. Or even if they were doing well and they leave or they graduate, or yeah, no, my heart would be just a mess. So
okay. That sounds like to me, Megan. You like, you know what, Chris? I know what lane I'm driving in, and I'm just gonna stay in my lane. So
yeah,
I do. Yeah, yeah. I feel you on
yeah,
that.
yeah.
I feel you. Totally understand. Totally understand. Okay. Two more
Okay.
questions I have for you, and this next one has advice. What is
Okay.
some advice that someone has gave you? We talked about advice you would give someone. But what is some
Mhm.
advice that someone has given you that you hold on dearly to?
Yeah. That's a good question. I have to give this person their flowers. So one of the people that's really instrumental in how I got to journalism, there's a gentleman named Danny Thompson. He works for ESPN in their analytics departments now. But when I met Danny at Black Sports Symposium here in Atlanta last year. And we were in the
Absolutely.
same sort of space. Both of us are trying to make it into the industry, that sort of thing and whatnot. And his advice to me at the time was, what are you going to do for yourself? How are you going to build a platform for yourself? And what that was in regards to was at the time I was doing some freelance work for Coltswire and that sort of thing. And he's like, hey, Coltswire is contract. Like, what are you gonna do if that runs out? They cut Coltswire tomorrow. Like, what are you gonna do? You need somewhere to go for your own platform, your own space, right? And I was like, okay. But some you go home and a little voice is like, hey, you need to do that, right? Like he's probably
Right.
right. Like, you should
Right.
listen. But the advice I tell that story for a reason is because that turned into an entire media company. So my freelance work is all through my own media company. And that's how I was able to get in with the Atlanta Dream, and still keep that now, even as a journalist with USA Today. Like I've covered, the Dream, I've covered Atlanta United, I've covered the Atlanta Vibe. So if there's sports here in Atlanta, I've probably covered them. Atlanta Gladiators is the other one. But I was able to do that through my own platform. And the reason I tell that is because if I hadn't stopped to listen to the people around me, that might not have happened. And I think when we hear stuff initially, we get in our own head about, I don't really know if I can do that. I'm not even sure. I don't really want to. That's a whole lot of work. Like, we talk ourselves out of things. But when I really stopped and sat and thought about what he was saying, I mean, in less than a week, I had a website, I had a business name, I had colors, scheme, like all of that. That was all the marketing, sort of background. But like, all I needed was somebody to like kind of just plant a seed, and I grew the rest of it. Right. So
Sure.
when people are sowing into you, pay attention to the people that sow into you. Right. Like
Mm.
I had known Danny probably all of 3 days when he said that to me. But I'm like, in my head, I'm like this dude knows what he's talking about, right? Like Danny had covered, he'd been a journalist for several years, that sort of thing. He was transitioning into analytics. But he knew I wanted to go somewhere that were, authentic stories. I have him to thank for pointing me in the direction of the WNBA. And I also have him to thank for, just essentially planting the seed and kind of letting me be. But like I went and sat and I was like, oh, he's probably right. Like I need to, it started out as something as like just a space to like, my rants and that sort of thing. And then it just became something else and transformed itself. So I, my thing is like listen to those folks that are around you. When someone says, hey, this is what I see in you. Hey, this is what I, what I'm thinking. Obviously, you got to have some discernment, right? Because not every piece of advice is going to be great. But
Right.
when someone is intentional with you, when someone is giving you a piece of advice that really they have no sort of say, you know what I mean? They're not looking for anything in return. Those folks
Right.
that are genuine like that, pay attention to those folks. So it's not really a certain piece of advice, but just more of a like when someone is actively, seeing something in you, like don't be afraid of the moment. There it is. That's probably what I was saying. Don't be afraid of the moment. When someone presents something to you, don't be afraid to jump.
Absolutely. I'm gonna have to pay attention to those other things that you do cover for Atlanta. And I split time here in Minnesota and Atlanta because I definitely check in on moms and my aunt and my uncle. So I definitely will have to pay attention to that because I've reached out to my first sports editor that was there. You've heard of the Marietta Daily Journal.
Yeah, yeah,
And the
yeah.
Cherokee Trip. That's where I first started off. Like when I first got my feet wet
Okay.
doing stuff like that, covering football, baseball, basketball, and lacrosse, regular
Yeah.
season playoffs. So I got my feet wet there. But now that Atlanta has grown with the vibe and different things of that nature, I always kind of like to reach out and be like, hey, do you need is there any time that you might need assistance in covering the vibe or this, that, and the third? Like, I know I'm kind of in Minnesota right now, but Atlanta is definitely one of the spots I wouldn't mind coming back to. Is there anything that you would need? Because I certainly wouldn't mind helping. Even in a
Yeah.
freelance type of opportunity, I just want kind of a different opportunity at that particular time to cover something
Mhm.
different than like high school and college. And that's when the BS3 network stepped up and said, let's go for the Minnesota Lynx and also Vikings. So now I can do that now. But I definitely, if I ever was in Atlanta for a period of time, every time I'm there, I'm always looking to cover something. So I would definitely
Okay.
hit him up and do that. And if you ever needed anything, I certainly would oblige.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Yeah, no, I honestly I think that's really cool. I think that we need more, more black journalists in the space, more
No
black
question.
creators in the space. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine the other day and I was like, there aren't that many, in space. Like this industry is very, very small. So journalists of color, creators of color, there's not that many. There's not that many
No,
in
it's
general.
not.
So when I see someone who looks like me, you know, doing great work, pushing, the envelope, those sorts of things, like try to help as much as possible. It's not that I won't
Absolutely.
help any other journalists because you ask anybody that's like hit me up, like, yeah,
Sure.
I'm like, what you need, what you need. But
Sure.
in particular, when I see journalists of color, creators of color, trying to make a name for themselves. Like I know what it's like to be on the other end, and you are just like, where do I even start? Who do I even talk to? Right.
Sure,
Like
sure.
it sometimes it helps to look across the room and see someone that looks like you. You're like, oh hey, okay.
Absolutely.
Like, you know what I mean? Like sometimes
Yeah.
it helps that. And sometimes it helps to look across the room and see someone who is just brand new like you are and trying to make it. So I try to extend that to everyone. And I think that, we could use a lot more of that in the industry.
Absolutely. Being here in Marshall, Minnesota, which is such a small town, I love coming to small towns. It gave me an opportunity to be able to cover a lot of different sports, some section champions, some state champions, hundreds of articles I've written in covering different all kind of sports. I love it because now I've gotten that experience that I needed.
Mhm.
But it's also something where I came here because I'm the first and only Black journalist that ever worked in a publication here.
Wow.
Not an African American lady. There's not an ethnic woman. No other ethnicity. That's just ethnic. I was the first and only one.
Wow.
And I thought that meant something because I wanted people to see a different face. You
Mhm.
have African Americans that play sports on these teams, and you need to see a face that is comfortable being around something that is not a lot around.
Mhm.
And you
Mhm.
need to be able to give, like I said, that kind of vision of, okay, I can do that too. I see him doing it, I can do it too. And that's exactly what I wanted to do here. And I felt like I've done that because a lot of parents of African American descent have reached out to me and said, thank you for doing what you do. Although I have left there, they still keep in touch with me. And they said, thank you for still covering our games. I said, no problem. I mean, this is what I love to do, but it's not just about me, it's about people following behind me.
Mhm.
I want them to know they can do the same thing I can do, whether
Mhm.
you're especially black, because that's
Mhm.
what I am. But you can do the same thing I do in small towns and make that same kind of impact because people are going to love
Mhm.
your stories regardless. So
Mhm.
um, that's why I did what I did coming up here, and I love that. And now I'm going to be looking for my next transition and my next move. Um, I want to end it here because, man, this has been a dope conversation, Megan. You have been absolutely wonderful to talk to. There's no question about that. You do amazing work, which I've read your work, and I try to use writers as inspiration for myself and motivation because you write great pieces, and I just try to find little tidbits on what I can do to improve my writing from the writers that I pick up from, which we all do. That's what we do as the community that we are. Um, as I always do to end my podcast episodes, I ask, is there anything else you would like to add about yourself or the industry before we conclude?
Oh man. First, let me say thank you for reading my work. Anytime I hear that from people, it's still kind of a surreal feeling. I don't want to get choked up a little bit, but yeah, I still feel brand new here in this industry. So it's like it's always really kind of a humbling moment when I hear people say they read something that I wrote and it impacted them or they love something. So thank you. I appreciate that. I think just in general, I appreciate the opportunity to tell my story, to shed more light on things. It's cool to kind of talk about the things that aren't work. Because I feel like I'm around sports 24/7. Um,
Sure,
if I'm
sure,
not writing it, I'm watching it, I'm talking about it. You can ask my husband all the time. We are constantly sending each other stuff. Hey, did you see this? Or he'll send me something. I'm sure you guys wrote about this, right? Like,
sure, sure.
so it's constantly, it's constantly a sport. So sometimes it's nice to just talk about things that aren't that. So I appreciate you for giving me the space to do that and share a little bit, about myself and talk about my favorite things or not so favorite things or controversial food opinions.
Sure, sure.
No, that's awesome. I appreciate that. We need more stuff like that. And it helps humanize us. I think a lot of times people forget that, like, yeah, we're human beings too. Like you see the social media presence or whatever else, and or you see, oh, they're just a journalist or they're just a media person, and you forget, like, yeah, we're human beings too. Like, I go home just like you go home. I take my socks
Absolutely,
off and my shoes off at the end of the night, just like you do.
absolutely.
So I think we got to remember that, like, yes, we're humans too on this side. It's our jobs as humans to kind of uplift each other and get to know one another. So I appreciate that opportunity.
No, no question. And once again, Megan, I know you're going to continue to do great work. Obviously, I'm a fan of yours. Obviously, I follow you on social media platforms, and I'm looking forward to the day that I can at least say hello to you in person down
Yeah.
there in the A. Because, like I said, you're a tremendous person, and I want you to enjoy the rest of your Tuesday evening. It is a pleasure talking to you. I thank you again for allocating your time to me on my podcast, and we'll be in touch.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate you.